What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and we're going to be discussing a Pro Football Focus 3-round mock draft for the New York Giants today. Of course, draft season, it's right around the corner. We're less than a month away from the 2023 NFL Draft, and the New York Giants have some big holes to fill. Now, we know that center is a big point of weakness. Wide receiver, the Giants are still searching for that WR1. Cornerback, that's another need that they need to fill. And in this PFF 3-round mock draft, they were actually able to fill all three of those needs in each of these rounds. So we're going to go ahead and discuss this, kind of take a look at these players that PFF is suggesting that the Giants should target, and also discuss how the Giants definitely need to address these positions entering this draft, because if they go into the 2023 season without an upgrade at center and at cornerback, they are going to be in for a long season. So let's go ahead and discuss all of the different needs that the Giants have on their roster. And of course, this PFF mock draft. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, with the 25th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Jordan Addison in this PFF mock draft. So you all know, if you've been watching the channel or listening to our episodes for a while, that I am a huge fan of Jordan Addison. I like his game. I love what he brings to the football field. I think he's a perfect fit for the New York Giants. So with the 25th overall pick, if that's the way that the Giants go, they land USC product Jordan Addison. I would love that. Addison has a very unique blend of skills that translate to the Giants offense. And what I mean by that is that he's a very good route runner, which is something that Brian Daboll prioritizes. If you give Brian Daboll the option of a big go-get-it jump ball receiver like a Kenny Galladay, or a shiftier receiver who kind of creates space and finds their way open like Wan'Dale Robinson, he goes with Wan'Dale Robinson and he sends Kenny Galladay to the bench. And that's the thinking with a guy like Jordan Addison. However, I do think that there are some legitimate concerns with Jordan Addison in the first round. You take a look at his size and his frame. Yes, he's 6 feet tall, which I like on the outside. That's good height, but the weight is a huge issue for Jordan Addison. He weighed in at the combine at just 173 pounds. Now, let's put that into perspective, because there's also an ESPN mock draft today where the Giants still took a wide receiver at 25, but in this one, Jordan Reed did this. They actually took Zay Flowers instead. And now I want to compare these two players because I think they have similar skill sets. They're not the same players, and I do think Jordan Addison is the better player, but let's take a look at how Jordan Addison, 5'11", 173 pounds at the combine, ran a 4.49 40-yard dash. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a poor speed. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that it's super important for a wide receiver to have top-end speed if they have a really good agility, right? But let's just think about how he's very skinny, very small, and he ran a 4.49, which isn't super fast, but Zay Flowers, similar skill set, similar height, weighs 10 pounds more and ran a 4.42 40-yard dash, was much faster. Low 4.4s is definitely a lot better than high 4.4s, getting close to the 4.5. So when you take a look at that, Zay Flowers versus Jordan Addison, I do think there can be a healthy debate there. Like, you could have a healthy debate about, is Jordan Addison the better player than Zay Flowers? I think there are some analysts out there who might tell you Zay Flowers is the better product, but I do think that Jordan Addison fits better into the New York Giants mold. Now, why is it so important that the New York Giants draft a wide receiver in the first round? Some fans don't even believe that. Some fans think that they should go center in the first round. Now, in this mock draft, they actually go center in round 2. We'll dive into that in just a second. But with Jordan Addison and kind of the debate about a wide receiver in the first round for the New York Giants, if you look at the way that their offense is structured right now, they have a bunch of number 2 guys, a bunch of number 2, number 3 wide receivers, right? Like Wan'Dale Robinson's not going to be your number 1 guy. Isaiah Hodgins probably not your number 1 guy. I mean, he kind of showed that he has a lot of potential and a lot of promise as a number 2 guy, but when we got to the NFL playoffs, he, yes, had that dominant game against Minnesota, but he kind of disappeared against Philadelphia because he isn't necessarily a number 1 guy. So when you take a look at the Giants' need for a WR1, I do think it's still there, despite the fact that they traded for Darren Waller, signed Paris Campbell, extended Darius Slayton. The only real upgrade into their offensive firepower at the wide receiver department this offseason was Paris Campbell, a guy who's been injured for the overwhelming majority of his NFL career. Just had a healthy season in 2022, a player you guys know I really do like. I see a lot of potential in a guy like Paris Campbell, but it's a 1-year deal. It's not a long-term solution by any means. And again, it's a risky, injury-prone player. So the Giants still need to upgrade that wide receiver position, in my opinion. They retain a lot of talent, and I do think that the addition of Darren Waller does a lot for this offense. However, there is something to be said about having a wide receiver who can make plays in space, run after the catch, and run some really good routes, in addition to having a very dynamic tight end, because Waller's going to line up a lot in the slot. He's going to line up out wide. He's going to line up in line and play tight end. Yes, he's going to move all over the offense and do all these things. But think about how much of a matchup nightmare he is and how that can open things up for one-on-one opportunities for a young rookie wide receiver to step in there and just have a breakout rookie campaign. That's what I envision for whichever wide receiver the Giants take in the first round of this year's draft. I think that playing alongside Darren Waller is actually the key to having that dominant rookie wide receiver. But let's go ahead and talk about that center position, because when you look at center for the New York Giants, they lost John Feliciano. He just signed with the San Francisco 49ers. Not that that's a huge loss, but it is in a way, because no, he wasn't the most talented player. He wasn't an all-pro level center. He wasn't even a quality starter, some might argue. But he was the team center last season, and now they don't have one on the roster. Nick Gates left to sign with the Washington Commanders as well. So what do the Giants do at center? They have to draft somebody at this point. Yes, they have some guys. Shane Lemieux practiced there a little bit before his toe injury. Ben Bredesen has played center in the past. He's a decent player. He might be the starter. But wouldn't we rather some fresh blood step in there, make an instant impact? A guy like Luke Weipler out of Ohio State, who I really do like, a player that I've seen targeted to the Giants in mock drafts with the 25th overall pick. So in this mock draft, PFF has him landing to the Giants with number 57 in round 2. And I do think that's interesting, because when you take a look at Luke Weipler, his draft stock kind of ranges from first to second round, and low-key sometimes third, but not really. I think that he might go pretty early because there's not a lot of talent at the interior offensive line position in this draft class. However, he might not go first round because the center position is very undervalued. A lot of people do not pay big for center. You rarely see centers go in the first round of the draft. So when you're talking about Luke Weipler being the 25th pick or the 57th pick, I don't think it's unrealistic to see him land to the Giants at number 57. I think there is a possibility for him to slide that far in the draft. And if he does, I do think that the New York Giants have to sprint like Olympic track athletes to the podium to get this one in, because I think Luke Weipler is a very good player. New Jersey native, attended St. Joseph's Regional High School, 6'3", 303 pounds. And he's very athletic, and he started 13 games at center for the Buckeyes in each of the last 2 seasons, taking over as a starter in the fall of 2021. He was named All Big Ten honorable mention that season before earning third-team All Big Ten honors this past fall. So again, I've said it many times, I really do like Luke Weipler. I'll pull up, I have some more stats that we can even dive into on this guy, because I recently just wrote an article about him. Go check my articles out, empiresportsmedia.com. But over the past 2 seasons, Weipler allowed just 1 sack on 965 pass blocking snaps, while also boasting an 89.2 run blocking grade, according to Pro Football Focus. In fact, he had over 1,700 total career snaps for the Buckeyes, and he only gave up 1 sack in his entire collegiate career. So you really look at that. He is a polished player. He's technically sound. He has really good fundamentals in his pass sets and his run blocking, all of that. He's just technically refined, and he might be a little bit undersized. That is true. That's a valid criticism of Luke Weipler, but he's athletic. He's refined. This is a player that I think can be your starting center for the next 5 years and maybe some change, because there's just so much potential. Center is kind of one of those positions that's kind of hard to miss on, in my opinion. In the draft, the best centers in the class usually pan out. You know, they don't necessarily turn into all-pro incredible players, but they'll be decent enough. And Luke Weipler, at the very least, will be a decent player in the NFL, in my opinion. He had some really, really impressive times at the Combine in terms of his change of direction skills. He posted a short shuttle time of 4.53 seconds and a 3-cone of 7.64 seconds, which is blazing fast for an offensive lineman to do those agility drills. So again, he's very agile, he's very athletic, and he also is very technically refined. I do think that Luke Weipler to the Giants at number 57 is an A-plus home run pick. If he's there on the board when the Giants are on the clock, you absolutely take him, in my opinion. I mean, sure, let's look at the draft board, see who else is available, but Luke Weipler makes so much sense for the New York Giants with the number 57 overall pick. But let's talk about the third and final pick before we wrap this episode up. Now, this is a player who I'm not super familiar with, but I do think that it's worth noting here that PFF has the Giants taking a wide receiver in round 1, because it looks like they're going to. They met with Jordan Addison, they met with Zay Flowers, they met with Quentin Johnson, they're having dinner with Jackson Smith and Jigba, all these guys. They're definitely looking at wide receivers in round 1, so that makes sense. Round 2, they address arguably the Giants' biggest need in center. Now, round 3, PFF has the Giants addressing their second biggest need in TCU cornerback, Travius Hodges-Tomlinson. Now, again, a player that I didn't know a whole lot, but I'll read what is written about him on Giants.com. Hodges-Tomlinson saw significant action in his last 3 seasons at TCU. He played 29 games during that span and totaled 5 interceptions, 35 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 defensive touchdown. And here's a little bit of a caveat. The 5'8", 178-pound corner was named first team All Big Ten all 3 seasons. Now, again, very good player, first team All Big Ten, but he is 5'8", 178 pounds. This might be a guy you have to throw into the slot. He might have to be your starting nickel cornerback. And in my opinion, that's not the position that the Giants need to upgrade. They need to go with a CB2, an outside guy, a boundary cornerback who can play in press coverage and get in your face and man up on a wide receiver. I don't know if Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, again, I'm not super familiar with him, but the things that I do know about him, reading about him, researching prior to recording this episode, he is a bit undersized to play on the outside, and I don't know if he would be the fit for the New York Giants. Hodges-Tomlinson was at his best this past fall during his senior season, where he finished with 50 tackles, 40 solo, 3 interceptions, 15 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, and 2 tackles for loss. His performance earned him a selection as first-team All-American, in addition to being the recipient of the Jim Thorpe Award as the nation's top defensive back. So again, a very impressive player here who achieved a lot at the collegiate level. Now, he's fallen to the 3rd round for a reason, and that reason is his size. He is 5'8", 178 pounds. I personally think that the New York Giants do need to draft a cornerback in the first 3 rounds, but they need to go with a guy who's like at least 6 feet tall, or at least has the ability and the strength to play on the outside. Now, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe Travius Hodges-Tomlinson is, maybe I'm underselling him, and he has a lot more ability to play on the outside than I'm giving him credit for. But for me personally, there's a lot of cornerbacks in this class who are bigger bodied, who do play in press coverage, and who are at least 6 feet tall. That's the direction that I think that the New York Giants need to go in. So overall, I like this mock draft. Actually, I like it a lot. I think that this would kind of be a home run draft for the first 3 rounds for the New York Giants if they got Jordan Addison and Luke Weipler in rounds 1 and round 2. But in round 3, to go with an undersized cornerback, I do feel a little iffy about that. However, it is worth noting again that in this mock draft, the Giants are addressing all 3 positions of need. And this is totally possible that the Giants go wide receiver in round 1, center, then cornerback. It does almost feel like that's how they're prioritizing these positions when you look at what they've done in free agency, when you look at who they've been scouting and meeting with at the combine and at the pro days. It kind of looks like the Giants are going wide receiver, center, and cornerback. That might be their list of priorities to address during the 2023 NFL draft. And I think we're all in agreement. That's perfect. That's exactly what they need to address. And if they do address these positions, and let's say they draft 3 players and they all pan out to be starters, well, the New York Giants will be sitting pretty in a very nice position to enter the 2023 season. So again, I really like this mock draft. I would give it an A. Honestly, I think it's really solid. Jordan Addison, Luke Weipler back-to-back. You can't ask for much more than that if you're the New York Giants. And I would be thrilled to see this outcome come draft time. So that's my opinion on it, but I want to hear yours down below in the comment section. And please make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you do not miss an episode. I will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.